Hey everyone, A-Side here. This is a look at the initial focus tree and ideas for the Dwarven Ireland mods I'm working on for Hearts of Iron 4. It's based on this dieselpunk historical fantasy series I have, which is pretty much set in my backyard here in Galway, where Connemara, that's this little tile over here, was the home of the Dwarves of Ireland. They've since spread it out to the rest of the islands apart from Belfast and most of Ulster. And sometime in the 1840s, instead of the potato famine, we get a Stoke-Rest disaster zone out here. That's not going to come up with too much in this mod, but I did take some inspiration from this game for some of the background stuff, like it's not going to be in this, but the Kingdom of Scandinavia. So Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Greenland in one under one crown. That's actually something you can kind of do. You can kind of do in this, or at least start it out that way, or set it up, or something like that. I can't remember the details right now. So this should make playing as Arms a little more interesting, say, than the default one. Like for starters, we actually have dockyards. It's always annoyed me that there hasn't been one, even just for building convoys, because there would have been some in Dublin and some in Cork. Obviously, Belfast is most famous for this, but that's where it goes. We have more factories, some stuff unlocked. We have a navy. We have a naval base down here in Cork, because that's where the Irish Naval Service is actually based nowadays. We have some planes. We have a greater population because the potato famine never happened, and that also applies to Northern Ireland. And yeah, the political system is going to probably change at some point, but as it stands, we have a very decentralized group of city-states under, well, Ramturks, Bens, Kerry Mountains, Cork ones, Dublin, Wicklow Mountains. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I really should look this up. Very decentralized under a High King. That would be this guy here. So there's it's basically like herding cats, but at the same time they're much harder to bomb because they're all spread out. A defensively oriented military, so less likely to actually want to join a war, but everybody serves in the militia and they excel at fighting on their home turf. Another side grade here, infantry are shorter and thus they can't actually move as fast or carry as heavy weaponry, but they excel at fighting in the dark, and being smaller on average means they can dig in quicker. The Inquisition is ever vigilant. So yeah, much greater chance at defending ourselves, catching enemy spies, but a penalty to stability, willingness to attack because they're reluctant to make themselves look like idiots, but they're willing to defend more, and research speed because of all the bureaucracy and paperwork that comes with. We already have one advisor, the Taoiseach. I need to actually spell that correctly. He's focused, basically, the way the dwarves work on this is the old system of tanistry. They don't elect the king, they elect the successor to the king. So in about a month or so, this guy is going to pass away, and I'll probably update the focus tree to at least acknowledge that he's on his last legs. This guy becomes king, and then you get a choice. There are going to be a few other advisors here. I do need to tidy up some of this a bit and find a way to actually get rid of all the default ones. We do have a couple of extra, industrial concerns. So, Trading Company, they are the antagonists of one of my stories, Bomeritis Uncovered, which is coming out, when was it? The 4th of May or 2nd of May. Basically, leading into the May Bank holiday here in Ireland. They do provide some benefits, some extra production efficiency, construction speed, industrial research speed, resource to market. That's just because they're exporting all over the place, but they have too much power and they keep meddling. And then this one is just a bog standard railway concern. I've adapted my other mod, the Dwarven Ireland mod, so now all the artillery are smaller and cheaper and weaker. Same with trucks, they're cheaper, easier, quicker to put out, but they use less fuel. And again, same with guns. They're basically using smaller pistol caliber carbines, so not as good at actually dealing with tanks and stuff. But let's be honest, the way the AI works in this game is they always seem to try landing in Wicklow and then pushing into Dublin. With a coastal fort here, and you can basically just keep poking them back into the sea. It is kind of funny. Other miles we have dedicated one for light aircraft, so focusing on fighters and close air support. Again, they're smaller and weaker, but there's not much else here. It's pretty bog standard, just some slight changes there. Industrial naval ones. We actually have one for submarines, mainly because the father of the modern submarine was an Irishman from the scanner, somewhere down around here. And that actually does come up in the focus tree. Again, I said Yugo shipyards, I'll probably rename this at some point. They create corvettes, basically turning destroyers into cheaper, weaker, harder to spot, harder to actually hit, dedicated anti-submarine ships. And then one purely for convoys, just for the hell of it. Light tank plant, because we do actually have tanks now, and our own designs. And quickly go over the unit types we have. So this does use build on another mod of mine, which adds Irish unit names and voice lines. Voiced by me, so they are crap. But hey. Dwarven infantry. Basically, the difference between them and the regular human infantry is they have some entrenchment, they're slower, but better on the defense, and they use less supply because they need less fuel. This other one here is the Dwarven Inquisition. They're a combination of a military police and field hospital, so they provide both, while not being and they are affected by the relevant tech, but not being as good as both at their respective tasks. More general purpose, less specific. We also have motorized cavalry. This is exclusive to Ireland, or the dwarves. Basically unlocked from it's available from the start for us. And it's basically just lighter trucks, lighter smaller trucks, like, I don't know, I suppose in modern terms you could probably think of it as a Suzuki Carry with a machine gun at the back. Not great, but it allows it to just move quicker, and in tight urban quarters probably be a lot better. And also light tanks, support artillery. There's not much else here to go over. Dwarven militia. Again, these guys are just going to sit in a fort and dare the enemy to bring some friends. Right, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the focus tree. So yeah, I've actually made an effort to change things, but it's a work in progress. I'm going to start over with the military side of things. Nothing too fancy here. Extra XP, greater cost reduction for land doctrines. Then we get a choice between further mass training, which I forgot to add the tooltip for this. Basically, we increase our recruitable population factor, lower training speeds, or we go for higher quality troops, which just makes our actual units better. Off the top of my head, I think it's just more org, a little more attack, and more training time. And this is standardizing equipment. It's just for flavor more than anything else, but efficiency gap, nice to have. Building up the armory in Mount Ergel, I might change that to the Glen of Imal, which is somewhere over here in Wicklow. That is where the Irish military actually does their artillery training. Gives us a bonus to support artillery, gives us some military factories. And then over here, we need more tracks. Nothing fancy, but it's good to do. Doctrinal reform, another cost reduction, requires more of these. I might change the time a bit later. Further doctrinal reform, once we get 120 XP, we can use this to help deal with some of our masses. Basically, land doctrines will be cheaper, and we don't have to deal with this. We have less of a penalty to offensive wars. Sorry. And then we get a choice between just doubling down on infantry or motorizing everything. Sorry, what the hell was that? Sorry, I had my browser open, I'm doing something else. Where was I? Oh yeah, over here, just some extra air stuff. And then going all in on fighters or all in on casts. Basically, the way I view this is the dwarves had pioneered using casts before World War I for counterinsurgency work. But maybe they've realised, we might need to actually guard our airspace, not bomb the shit out of Fomorians. And this is nothing fancy, just cost reductions for doctrines. This just gives us a breakthrough for aerodynamics. This allows us to bypass radar completely. Maybe you want to use that on something else. I might change it. It does require us to have improved radio or improved computing machines. And if you do have radar, I think I might change this to bypass it entirely. And then unlock helicopters if we have researched engines 3. Requires a long time, but honestly, if you've got to this point, you've probably got nothing else to do. Let's just roll with it. Again, naval side of things, just adding more dockyards. I might adjust this to add more dockyards. Who knows? Then we get a choice between improving submarines. After all, the father of the modern submarine was an Irishman, so it's a bit fitting that we expand the submarine fleet. Gives a bonus to this, bonus to mastery, and an extra bonus on top. Or, hunter hunted, we hunt them down. It's a little bit unbalanced. I probably need to adjust the time on this. More dockyards, nothing fancy. Research for torpedoes, research for guns, research for engines, research for anti-submarine warfare. You're not going to be able to do much in this. I'm not going to really do any crazy naval stuff like, I don't know, battleships or aircraft carriers. I don't really see it working in this, but who knows. On the industrial side of things, I personally prefer 2 50% research bonuses over 1 100% time. That's just me. And 35 days for a civilian or 35 days for a military, I think that's better than the base game. And then 70 for 2, 70 for 2. Then we get a choice between going all in on civs or all in on arms setup. Then we've got another research slot. Then a choice between a research slot and a research boost, or just going in on production. Just for flavor, really. 2 big things here. If we have excavation 2, we can just gain some more steel. And then gain some aluminium. All stuff that there isn't in the base game. And then external investments, if we have either of these and a particular focus path, we can just get some off few map factories. Now let's quickly go into the political side of things. So, 35 days for 120 political power. This is a prerequisite for any of these ones, and this will be an event which I'll probably skip forward to actually show this. So, we wait for succession, then we choose which of these, and they'll be bypassed by our decision. If we go with the corporate person or a fascist, we can reject the constitution, which gives a bonus to political or non-aligned. If we went non-aligned, we can get more of it. And there's probably going to be more stuff here in the background, which I've forgotten to put a tooltip for. Then we start selling guns to everyone and sending mercenaries abroad. If we go fascist, we basically turn ourselves into a theocracy. Then we get a war goal against the UK to take Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And then we've got a choice between joining the Axis and forging our own path. I'll probably add something else here to try and give you a reason to go with this, other than for flavour. I'll show you in the communism side in a moment. Going back up, we also have this patriotism, which just gives us ticking war support and recruitable population. Prices have gone with the revanchist or the old warden. The old warden is basically a retired officer who's done a fair amount of liaison work with the Brits. So what I'm planning to do is have him tie us very tightly to Britain, whereas the reformer might be less so. Future Race 8 here. I discovered that there's actually a couple of focuses that I forgot about because I'd mistyped a couple of the identifiers. So going down this old warden path and completing Instill Patriotism, we can then go for British liaison work, which just gives us some doctrine reductions. Basically, liaising with the British military. I haven't found a way to add an attaché for this yet. There might be a way, don't yet. And then a free trade pact with them just means less time wasted in customs, so we gain all the bonus of free trade and some off-map factories. Then, leading into that, we can joining the UK requires us to have that, and I'll probably change to one of these two here instead of all potentially all three. So unification requires that free trade pact, symbiosis of state and citizen, or but not too far, one of those three, and then one of those two. It'll probably change at some point. Move things around a bit. And yeah, that's basically all this happened because I'm an idiot and I was also using a plain old text file, plain old text editor, and didn't notice I'd mistyped a few things. There really needs to be an easier way to do this. Then we can enshrine a written constitution, which will add some extra political power, or to kind of help offset the decentralized cities. Now, these two things here, in the church of the tunnels and the separation of church and state, they will come in later if we do take Northern Ireland one way or another. Probably add a few more here in between just to try and flesh things out, but it's an early start. After going in with separation of church and state, we can either go with symbiosis of state and citizen, which basically just gives us some extra consumer goods, but people are more willing to actually fight for the state because it gives them a reason to, rather than just out of patriotism. Or we can go communist, lean left, but not too far left. Gives us some greater welfare, which just means more stability in this case. Flipping to communism, we does give a few extra things here. Basically, lower consumer goods, production efficiency, dockyard output, factory output. Then we got a choice between join the Comintern and telling Stalin to fuck off. which gives us more bonuses on top of what we already got here. I do like this. Especially, and this as well, saying we do not need the ridiculous moustache man. Why? I think it's funny. And then, pushing for reunification. There isn't a tooltip for this yet, but taking Northern Ireland one way or another is going to imply a malice to the state. If we conquer it, there will be a fair amount of extra resistance because the Unionists up here do not like being under our heel, so to say. If we take it peacefully, and we chose to enshrine the Church of the Tunnels, they'll be less pissed off with us, but still fairly reluctant to support us, because they don't like being under us. Separation of church and state, on the other hand, will lower that to a minimum value, and it'll decay faster. They're not going to be happy because they're no longer the top dog, but yeah, well, they'll be less pissed off about it. Moving on, anything else here? I haven't had any new advisors or military high command yet. I'll probably do that at some point. I have had some new admirals. This guy is basically a old convoy, the old guard of convoy protection. Nothing fancy. The other guy is a politically connected sea wolf, so you might want to maybe put him on a different fleet for the submarines. I suppose I may as well show you the designs I've got for those. They're fairly basic. Like, wow, look at this. Such a teeny, pathetic thing. I do know there's a bit of a bug about submarines being kind of useless in the game now at the moment, but that'll probably change. That'll definitely change at some point. And our Kirog, or Roach-class destroyers, this is about as basic as it gets. I may have copied this dual-purpose gun from something else, but again, it works. Planes, we do have our own designs. The Eagle is just a basic fighter. Nothing fancy, it sucks, but it's a good starting point. The Spit Oak, which I think is either Sparrow or Robin, I cannot remember right now. Again, basic close air support for anti-insurgency work. And our tanks, the Coup War, or Big Wolfhound. Nothing fancy here, it's just a two-man turret. Gristy suspension, petrols, small cannon, and we do have focuses over here for mechanized and tanks. I'm starting to wonder if I should maybe add some more off-the-wall stuff, but that can probably wait for a bit. So yeah, I have not uploaded this to Steam yet. It's a work in progress, but let me know what you think, and I'll probably start doing an actual game of this sometime next week. So if you like this, leave a like, comment, subscribe to keep track of my bullshit. Maybe check out some of the stuff I'm working on some stuff I'm writing on Patreon, Ko-fi, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.